Kunal is a hard-working African man living in Europe, dedicating his life to relentless labor and sacrifice. For over 10 years, he works 12-hour shifts every single day without rest, living in a cramped one-room shared apartment. He doesn't drive, doesn't enjoy life, and barely eats properly. Every penny he earns is sent back home to Africa to support his family. Back home, Kunal is seen as a wealthy man. He owns a mansion, multiple cars, and is responsible for funding his siblings' education and taking care of extended family members. Despite his harsh living conditions abroad, his family lives comfortably because of his sacrifices. Every 3 years, Kunal returns home briefly, only to spend money repairing damaged property and fixing problems caused by those he supports. But everything changes when Kunal suddenly falls ill in Europe. Weak and alone, he prepares to return home, unaware that his own family, believing he will die, begins selling all his assets. By the time Kunal arrives, everything is gone. This story reveals a painful truth about sacrifice, loyalty, and misplaced trust. Kunal represents millions of people who give everything to support their families, often at the cost of their own well-being. He lived a life of extreme discipline and hardship, believing that his sacrifices would secure a better future, not just for himself, but for everyone he loved. One key lesson is that self-neglect is dangerous. Kunal ignored his health, comfort, and personal happiness, thinking there would always be time later. But life is unpredictable, and without balance, even the strongest people can fall. Another lesson is that not everyone values sacrifice the same way. While Kunal gave everything, his family saw his wealth as an opportunity rather than a responsibility. This highlights the importance of boundaries, financial awareness, and protecting what you build. The story also teaches that true wealth is not just about what you own, but who stands by you in your weakest moments. Kunal had everything: houses, cars, status, but when he needed help the most, he was alone. Finally, it reminds us that kindness should not come at the cost of self-destruction. Supporting others is noble, but not when it leaves you empty. Have you ever sacrificed everything for people you loved, only to realize they would never do the same for you? Imagine waking up every day at 5 a.m., working 12-hour shifts without rest, living in a tiny room you share with strangers, barely eating, barely sleeping. Now imagine doing that for 10 years. Not for yourself, but for your family. Now imagine this. You build them a mansion. You buy them cars. You pay their school fees. You give them everything. And one day, when you fall sick, they take everything back. That's exactly what happened to Kunal. A quiet man living in Europe. A man people thought was poor. A man who lived like he had nothing. But what they didn't know was, Kunal was a big man back home. A mansion. 3 cars. A whole family depending on him. And in just one moment, everything changed. Because what his family did next would leave him with nothing. If you believe sacrifice should never be repaid with betrayal, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the Story Room channel. Because sometimes, the people you suffer for are not the ones who will stand by you. Kunal was the kind of man who never complained. Quiet, strong, relentless. For 10 years, he lived the same life. Wake up at 5 a.m., leave the house before sunrise, walk to the bus stop, 2 buses, long journey, work for 12 hours, no breaks, no excuses. Then return home at midnight, eat, sleep, repeat. Every day, no days off. His room was small, barely enough space for a bed, shared with others. No privacy, no comfort. While others enjoyed life, Kunal endured it. Because in his world, there was a purpose. Back home in Africa, Kunal was not poor. He was rich. A mansion stood in his name. 3 cars parked outside. His parents lived comfortably. His brothers went to school. Even his brothers' children were taken care of by him. Every penny Kunal earned, he sent home. People advised him, take care of yourself, eat better, buy a car, rest. But Kunal would always reply, I am a big man in my country. I have a mansion. and 3 cars. So don't disturb me. At first, people respected him. But slowly, they began to question him. Because something didn't make sense. Every 3 years, Kunal returned home. And each time, he expected peace. But reality was different. His cars were always damaged. Engines broken. Parts missing. Family members had been using them carelessly. The house always needed repairs. Broken fridge. Faulty generator. Walls needing renovation. Each visit became expensive. Instead of resting, Kunal spent money fixing problems. Again. And again. But he never complained. Because to him, family was everything. Back in Europe, his life continued. Work. Sleep. Repeat. But something about it didn't feel right. And then, one day, everything changed. Kunal fell sick. At first, he ignored it. Just tiredness, he thought. But it got worse. His body became weak. He couldn't work properly. He couldn't sleep. He was alone. No family. No one to care for him. That's when he made a decision. He would go back home. But what he didn't know was, news had already reached his family. They heard he was sick. Very sick. And then, they made a decision. The moment that would change everything. The room went silent. But not in Europe. In Africa. Kunal's family gathered. Whispers filled the house. What if he doesn't survive? What happens to everything? Who will control it? Fear turned into greed. And then, they acted. They began selling everything. The cars. The property. Even parts of the house. All his money. Disappeared. Before Kunal even arrived. Kunal struggled through his journey back home. Weak. Exhausted. When he arrived, he was rushed to the hospital. But then came the shock. There was no money. No one had anything. Everything was gone. Kunal looked around. Confused. Broken. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This was betrayal. His heart raced. His body trembled. But his spirit shattered. Because in that moment, he realized the truth. The people he lived for had already moved on without him. What would you have done if you were Kunal? Would you still forgive, or walk away forever? Have you ever sacrificed for people who didn't value you? Share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Just when everything seemed lost, someone stepped forward. A man Kunal had helped years ago. A man who once had nothing. Who once needed help. And Kunal didn't hesitate. That man heard what happened. And he came. Quietly. Without announcement. He paid the hospital bill. Every last cost. Kunal survived. Slowly. He recovered. But when he finally stood again, when he was strong enough to go home, he faced the final truth. There was no home. The mansion was gone. The cars were gone. The money. Gone. His family. Gone. No one answered him. No one explained. No one admitted anything. Silence. Complete silence. And in that moment, Kunal stood alone. For the first time in his life. He had nothing. After that, Kunal didn't shout. Didn't fight. Didn't chase anyone. He simply accepted it. The life he built was gone. But he was still alive. And slowly, he began again. Different this time. Wiser. Stronger. No longer living for everyone else. But for himself. Sometimes, the people you sacrifice everything for won't be there when you need them most. Sometimes, love without boundaries becomes loss. Kunal gave everything. His time. His health. His life. But he forgot one thing. To take care of himself. Because true strength is not just in giving. It's in knowing when to stop. And sometimes, losing everything is the only way to finally see the truth. Thank you for watching this story on the Story Room channel. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more powerful stories. And remember, not everyone you sacrifice for will sacrifice for you.